Hello and welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/drive-in double feature podcast. Just some fun conversations over there where we're having a fun time talking about fun things, just having fun. It's fun over at
Thanks.
patreon.com.
Yeah.
And
Great,
if
great,
you're
great use of adjectives.
if you like fun stuff, go have a fun time over there. But don't worry, you can still have fun right here because it's not behind any paywall.
Sounds fun. Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you what's not fun. Our today's movie, which we're talking about 1983's Hot Dog, the movie, and that is directed by Peter Markle. Uh, this movie is actually a companion piece to the movie Hamburger. Hot Dog actually predates this, so that's not me being funny. That is a companion piece because the writer of this movie also directed Hamburger the movie.
Did not know that.
So yeah, that was written by Mike Marvin. Um, but this movie is primarily a skiing movie, and it's not literally about hot dogs. Not like Hamburger, where it's about like a hamburger place. It's a hot dog, like they're hot dogging on some skis
Yeah, hot
out
dog
there.
aerials.
Yeah, definitely. And this is it's another sex comedy that we've talked about before. It's in the same vein as a Hamburger. So
Yeah,
this movie, this
the
movie definitely gets pretty darn raunchy.
oh yeah, it's a sex comedy through and through. It's new and full of nudity and sex, and it's funny. So it's fun, as you like to put it.
It is. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's fun. But this movie stars David Naughton, who you may remember from An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. Well, I,
He's
I
the, the
thought
the
he was.
one who is actually the werewolf.
Yeah, well, I thought he was the star of this movie from like everything because he's like top billed, but he's not really the star of this movie. He's like a side character. What's his name? Patrick Hauser is like the actual star, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like in the context of this movie,
Hmm.
he's actually David Naughton's actually like the grizzled veteran of the group. Like
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
oh, he was like one of the top skiers in the world at one point, but now he's
Mhm.
kind of like in the twilight of his career, even though he's like 30 or
Yeah.
something. But
Yeah. He's like an old drunk, is the way the movie puts it. He's always drinking alcohol the whole time.
yeah, but
Hmm.
basically the movie, you're right, is stars Patrick Hauser, who plays Harkin Banks, who
Hmm.
is a young guy from I think Idaho, or I think yeah, Idaho, I believe. And he comes over to the ski resort out here in California, like out in the mountains of California,
Mm.
and trying to win his first national ski competition. But there are some evil Germans, and I'm thinking, I've never seen an evil German in my life. So I was like, that's a little bit of a stretch, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, would, I would say. I don't know.
No, I mean fine, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
they are the villains of this movie. It's a group of evil German skiers that are trying to win the championship, but they're not amused by this no by these nonsensical actions, these frat pack, but they actually do call them the Rat Pack in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I think even David Naughton, he's like, oh well, the kid's officially a part of the Rat Pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the some noteworthy members, like I said, there's Dan, there's the dopey guy, Squirrel, who's in this
Yeah.
movie, and there's also a very stereotypical Asian character
Yeah,
named Kendo.
there has to be a Japanese guy as part of the group who doesn't speak English. That yeah.
But they all understand him though. Everyone's bilingual in this group.
Isn't that awesome? I love that they're all inclusive, and I would hope that they like learned his language.
You
And
know, that's just how accommodating they are. But you know, they didn't want to learn German; they wanted to
um,
learn Japanese.
yeah,
But
but you also forgot the most important character of the bunch, Sonny. Um,
oh yeah,
the
Sonny.
teenage runaway that he picks up at the beginning of the movie, who's under 18.
Yeah, well, how old is he? I think they're only like, well, I think he was 20 in the context of the movie.
Yes, yeah.
So,
And she was
I mean,
turning 18 in 4 months, is what she says. So,
it's not that creepy. I mean, it's not ideal, but
yeah, well, okay. So here's one thing I will give props to this movie for versus like other sex comedies. Harkin is not a creep through and through. He does sleep with somebody at
well,
some point a little bit later, but in these movies, I would expect the main character would pick up this hitchhiker, and they end up in a situation where they sleep in the same bed together, and he would make advances to her. You know, he would be like, "Oh, I want to sleep with you," or like, "Whoa, you just came out of the shower." He does not. He does not do that.
well, no, he's like a gentleman at first. I mean, like
Mhm.
because he does pick her up on the way to the ski championship, and they do end up sleeping in a hotel bed together.
Mhm.
And you know, she's like, Sonny's like, don't try anything. You know, like I'm not one of those types of girls. And
Mhm.
he's like, I'm fine, I'll leave you alone. And then
Mhm.
they spend they spend the night and they just sleep, nothing happens. And then like the next morning, she's like, I can't believe you didn't try anything. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Did you also notice the part where the truck almost hits a dog? Towards
No.
the beginning of the movie, they pull out of like a gas station, and a dog just darts in front of their car, like right across it, and like they almost hit it, and they don't. But I was like, oh my god, like that was a close call. Was it just a random dog from the background just got in the shot or something?
It wouldn't surprise me
Yeah.
with some of these movies. There's other weird movies. Like this is another tangent for this week, but there's like another movie where it's the movie. It's a movie where like in the background, like this guy just throws a dog into the ocean, like at the beach, like literally, like just
What?
like chucks it in there, like into the water.
That's so funny. But like
Like
awful.
it's mean, but it's just like, like it just randomly made it in the movie. But
Mhm.
that wouldn't surprise me though if that was like unintentional. They just left it in there. But
Yeah.
anyway, once they finally do make it, and they do become an item because like the next night they have together, they do make it to the ski championship, and it's a wet t-shirt contest just happens to be happening that night, which that is like a super long scene of like these women
Way
like
too long.
and just
Well,
like, oh, we're gonna get some cold water, guys, get a
yeah.
wet t-shirt.
I read a letterbox review, and somebody said that originally this was a Playboy movie, and I looked it up, and this is true. It well, not like when production started, but like pre-production, it was tied to like being like a softcore Playboy movie, I guess. And whenever I watch scenes like this with the wet T-shirt, I'm like, oh yeah, because this is a long scene of women getting their tops wet. Um,
uh,
and it
that,
I never been to a wet t-shirt contest, but this bar is going crazy, happy, celebrating, like, whoa, this is the best thing I've ever seen. All the women are so happy.
right, and that's the scene was like actually somewhat based in reality. When I say that, like I said, Mike Marvin is the screenwriter for this movie,
Yeah.
and that was like one of his passions was actually skiing, and like he used to ski like I think at an amateur level or something,
Hmm.
or so. And he this is not even like the first like ski thing he's been tied to. I think he's filmed other ski movies or something like that before. But anyway,
Okay.
he was saying like one of the famous things, you know, like this movie, like I said, does get very raunchy. And
Hmm.
they asked him about this years later, and he's just like, oh well, you know, this is I used to be a skier, and actually, like the things that would happen in real life are actually more obscene that what actually happens in the movie. And they asked him about this scene, which is the wet t-shirt contest, and he said, yeah, this was a real thing that happened. I went to a bar and then just turned into an orgy all of a sudden.
That doesn't sound right. I don't know, man.
Who am I to doubt Mike Marvin? Who are you to
Yeah.
doubt Mike Marvin?
Oh, okay, yeah, I should just believe everything Mike Marvin says. One of the great screenwriters of Hollywood.
I mean, yeah, he wrote
Yeah,
Better Off Dead.
Better Off Dead.
Well, you didn't see that movie?
No.
No. Well, it's the John Cusack movie. But anyway, um,
Oh, I know. Okay, I know that movie.
but no, so a lot of the stuff in here is pretty raunchy, but yeah, they have a really long wet t-shirt contest.
Hmm.
Apparently that was such a romantic event that Sonny and Harkin are just like, let's go home and have some sex, and then
Yeah,
they do.
they
So,
do. Yeah, I think that's so silly. Well, speaking of unnecessary nudity, right before that, when they check into the hotel, the woman that runs the hotel is completely naked in a hot tub with a guy scuba diving. Is this after that wet t-shirt competition and all kind of melts
no,
together?
I
Or
think it's before because they're checking into the hotel,
that's
I
right.
believe.
Yeah, and she just checks them in fully naked, and they're like, "Oh, okay," but she doesn't care. Um,
Yeah, but she was like, so she's actually is like a former playmate, Playboy playmate, I
okay,
believe. That was
that's
Shannon
Shannon Tweed.
right. So yeah,
Yeah.
that I guess that is like close for the Playboy ties at that point. But
Hmm.
they uh they filmed this scene, and that's that. There's one other thing this movie is has filled with is montages. If you
Yes.
love montages if you love skiing, I highly recommend this movie because
Yeah, I agree. I mean, more skiing. It's we talk about James Bond skiing a lot, but I think the skiing here is better than what you see in James Bond. This is like real like skiing jumps and stuff. It's actually not bad.
yeah, well, I mean, this one is like actual like ski competition, like
Yeah.
ski formations,
Mhm.
jumping, that type of thing. This is not just downhill racing or anything like that. So
Yeah.
um, they do that. I mean, they have like a ski competition where it's like the German is raking in all the high scores, but then like Harkin will come in and do like this amazing routine, and he like just gets lower, just like one
Uh-huh.
point lower, and they're just like, what the hell? He always keeps that always
I
keeps happening, Dan.
I think unfortunately we're like I don't know anything about skiing. Like he would do the performance and I would have to just assume based on everyone's reactions that Harkin did better because they're like, wow, you really kicked his ass out there. And I'm just watching it like, oh, that looked like the same stuff. They both did
Yeah,
well.
they look like they did skiing.
Yeah, they sure did ski.
No, I'm the same way. I mean, like I could. It's the same with like figure skating. It's like
Hmm.
I could watch two different figure skaters and be like, I, they both look great to
Yeah.
me. They look fine.
I know I can't do that. So,
Yeah. So, I,
um,
but no, that's the same way I feel. But yeah, they do this a lot. I mean, that's kind of like how this movie's broken up, where it's just like scene will happen, then they do a ski competition, and then another scene happens because um, when they have the ski competition, they, the German guy's kind of flirting with Sonny a little bit, and Harkin's like, hey, like what the hell? Like, we just spent like a night together, and she's like, you don't own me. Like, we're not an item. And
mm-hmm.
so they had like this big party at I forget whose house it is, but it's somebody's house, but like
Yeah,
everyone's there.
somebody like what's her name? It's like one of the women that's on the ski slopes. God, that's her party, right?
I think so, but yeah,
Yeah.
they have like, but it's another big party scene, and they actually do play some Duran Duran, "Hungry Like the Wolf." That
Yeah.
was a nice surprise.
No, I actually if there, I like the music in this movie in general. It's very, very 80s, like super synthy. Yeah, and I heard Hungry Like the Wolf, and I was like, wow, that's a big get for a movie like this.
Yeah. And well, I mean, because not you don't hear many people talk about this movie, and it's just like has
No.
like one of the most recognizable 80s songs ever in it.
Yeah.
So they had like this big party scene, and Harkin's kind of like, well, if she doesn't want us to be a couple, like I'm gonna go sleep with Sylvia. Sylvia's the hotel owner, and she's
Mhm.
the uh, they end up having like a really raunchy, like
Yes.
graphic sex scene.
Yes. It's definitely raunchy. But of course, Sunny walks in and she gets upset, even though she says they're not an item, but she turns around and sleeps with the Austrian bad guy, the guy that she calls Adolf earlier in the movie, which I don't get that reference, but
I don't either. No.
I don't think we should call all German people Adolf. They have different names, people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's this guy's name?
uh, uh, Adolf? Uh,
um, but anyway, that's kind of like the whole bit is like they end up, but there's some like, of course, since this movie is from the 80s, there is some stuff that hasn't aged very well as well in this movie. Like uh, there's the one character Squirrel, like he walks up to women and he's just like, "Hi, I'm Squirrel." He's like, "Is a out of the question?"
Yeah, it's definitely, you have to, when you go into like these movies, you have to go in with that mindset. These sex comedies, like watching like Revenge of the Nerds, like they are not aged well at all.
Well, yeah, because there's the other scene too where they're drinking at the bar, uh, and a woman comes over. She's like, "Give me something hot to drink," and he's like, "All right, I got this thing called the leg spreader," and he just pours in like a bunch of alcohol, and then like this girl just chugs it, and she
Mhm.
just passes out in front of everybody. And Squirrel's like, "Now there's a girl I'd like to take advantage of," and
Oh
it's just like,
yeah,
oh.
I heard that line. And it's like, oh no.
And then they're like, and then he was like, "See, drink works." Like, oh god.
And that was like, seeing like, this is humorous. Now this is funny.
Yeah, they're like, see that they got what they wanted.
Yeah. I mean,
And and the other part too, I was going to say that hasn't like the Japanese character Kendo. He speaks Japanese, but they do have like the one scene where he talks in subtitles where it's like your tits are as beautiful as Mount Fuji.
and they're like, I don't even know what he's saying, and he's like, you
And he's
don't
like,
have
"Oh no."
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just silly. And that's funny because the big joke of this movie, and I know it's like some movies have like a joke that's like, this is the memorable joke, is really racist towards the end of the movie. Whenever they with Kendo, like he says something in English at the end of the movie, but he says it like in the most broken English possible. When
Right.
he says like, what the is the Chinese downhill, but he says it in his accent. um I don't know, I felt like that
uh
was like a big moment, like this is funny right here.
oh, right, okay.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think because if you read the Wikipedia summary for this movie, which is really funny, it ends with, prior to the Chinese downhill, Kendo Yamamoto asks, "What is the Chinese downhill?" And that's how the plot synopsis ends. It doesn't tell you how it actually ends. It ends with this joke.
Right.
It's really silly. Um, but
But
they end up sleeping without each other, but they fix that issue really quickly in the
uh,
movie.
yeah, he plays her a little song on his guitar, and
Yeah,
she's kind of
stares
wowed
into
by
her
it.
eyes.
Yeah, and she's just like, "All right, all is forgiven," and then they're
Mhm.
they're back together, and that way they can get back what we're really here to see, which is the skiing.
Skiing. Oh, and Squirrel gets laid in a ski cabin or a chairlift vehicle.
Or yeah, the chairlift, yeah.
Yeah. So he even gets what he wants.
Which is such like it's like it's so gross too at the same time because it's there's
Mhm.
so because Squirrel's like putting on like like a sunblock onto his face,
Mhm.
and they're just like, oh, like you missed a spot, and he's like, where? And then just like they just start smearing like sunblock over each other and
And
like making out. It's like it's so disgusting.
yeah, it's really thick and gross. And then the people in the chairlift ahead of him are, which is the Rat Pack, are cheering him on while this is going on. And then we get montages of skiing.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do that, lots and lots of skiing, and
yeah.
uh that's that kind of like they do some back and forth there. I mean, some other scenes that happen is like they play a game of I guess it's kind of like field hockey because they don't use
Oh yeah,
skates,
that's right. Yeah.
and they start playing dirty and start hitting each other hard, and then they're like, well, let's teach these Germans a lesson, and they go in and like un unbolt, like unscrew, like where like the skis, like the ski boots lock in, so that way all their skis fly off when they're skiing.
Yeah.
And but anyway, long story. After all the skiing, the German team does win. Like it's like a
Yes.
big,
Yeah.
and it's like they're like, what? He won, and but they have one last competition where they put it all on the line, and the Chinese, what was it?
Yeah, the Chinese downhill.
Chinese downhill. I don't know why it's called that, but that's what it's called. And they have this big downhill ski competition, and what do you know? He wins. Harkin wins.
Yep, yep, and he wins all the money, and the German put the trophy on the line, so he ends up getting the trophy too, and everybody cheers him
Yeah.
on. And Mike Marvin says this all really happened to him, so you have to believe him.
Well, that this movie does break the fourth wall at the very end of the movie
Yes,
because
yeah.
the main bad guy just points at Harkin. It's like, I'll see you in Hot Dog too, which is because
That's
they don't like this movie is not like a parody movie, but just out of
no.
nowhere he does that.
Yeah, it seems like a joke that would be like in Naked
Like a
Gun, or
right.
yeah, it did seem off, but it did make me laugh. I thought that was kind of silly.
It made me laugh too because I
Hmm.
wasn't expecting that, but it it's a very harmless movie. I mean, I know, like I said, there's some stuff in here that hasn't aged well, but I mean, if you can get past that, I mean, I I I, I got it got some decent laughs out of me, and that's all I can ask for out of a movie like this.
Hmm. Um, it's all right. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's like super funny. And I think when it's raunchy, it's very, very unneeded. I'm gonna be that film nerd that's like unneeded sex.
What? Nathan doesn't like a sexy movie? What?
Yeah. Well, is it really sexy? I don't know. But
You wanted more. Gotcha.
yeah, yes. I just wanted a full on soft core. That's what I wanted.
You said too much skiing.
Yeah. But no, I do think this movie isn't bad. If you went out and watched it, I don't think you're getting something bad. Just know what you're going into. But I wouldn't say go out of your way. It's all right. It's an okay sex comedy.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's not the worst thing in the world,
Yeah.
but Nathan, one thing too I want to bring up, which we didn't, and I don't know if you saw, but
Hmm.
one of the behind the scenes things. So I know you say you weren't a big fan of this movie, but Nathan, can tell me what would you think if this movie was 3 hours long?
No, I did not see this. What?
There is the original cut of this movie was 3 hours long.
What? How? That sounds so boring. That sounds. Oh
so
God.
so okay, so the behind the scenes part of this movie is that it was directed by Peter Markle, and he helped cut the movie,
Mhm.
and the cut that he turned in was almost 3 hours long that
Oh
he
my
turned in.
God.
And Mike Marvin, the screenwriter and the producer of this movie, like both saw this cut and like went ballistic. Like, what
Yeah.
the hell? So just the party scene alone, like that party scene at the house, you know how long that scene was?
What? Like an hour and a half?
No, like 45
Or-
minutes,
Okay.
which is like that's like
That's ludicrous. Like that's just insane.
could not even imagine like that would even being the case.
Yeah,
Like
how was there that much footage even shot? Who allowed that?
well, they shot all this footage, and a lot of the shots that he turned in were like these unusable shots. Uh,
Gotcha.
he when he was screening the movie, he brought in like a boom box and like played the score on a boom box. I remember like, what? Like,
Wow, this movie sounds like it could have been one of the worst movies ever made. Luckily, they had somebody stop this man.
yeah. So immediately, what happened was they fired the director Peter Markle, and they had to
Yeah.
recut this entire movie and to a hour and a half long cut, which is the one we've made. But we've heard this so many times, and like like what was it, like Joe was supposed to be like 2.5 hours, and
Hmm.
on another podcast we did, which was Harold and Maude, it was like another like obscenely long movie, I believe they
Yes,
said,
yeah.
I just, but this one, it's like, I could not imagine it. I mean, I think the longest comedy that I can think of, which I know there's probably more, but the famous one I can think of is probably It's a Mad, Mad World, which is like
Hmm.
2.5 hours or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
or like Judd Apatow comedies. That's the running joke with those.
oh God, yeah. Like This Is
If you can
40
call
is
those comedies.
like This Is 40 is like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something crazy like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But um yeah, so but I just apparently though that's the whole reason why this movie was cut, is just because there was so much unusable footage and they had to trim that down.
Gotcha.
Some other behind the scenes bits, like we said, Kendo, he speaks Japanese in this movie, and
Hmm.
he actually lied in his audition where they asked him like, can you speak Japanese, and he's just like, yeah, and he didn't think his part would be that big, and his part ended up getting bigger, like, and they kept giving him more lines, so he had to like call his like one friend that spoke Japanese, and like he would like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and he would like run to the phone and
Uh-huh.
like call his friend and be like, hey, how do you say this line in Japanese, and say it phonetically? Like,
That's really funny, actually, especially because we didn't talk about this racist joke. He's talking to the guy with the headphones on, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't get that. Let me try to relay that to my judge." And he starts saying Mitsubishi, Suzuki, like that, and I was like, "Oh God, that
yeah.
hasn't aged well." They
But
couldn't
that just,
make that today.
no, they couldn't. And the other funny story behind the scenes bit of this movie is that uh, there's there are a few professional skiers in this movie.
Mhm.
I forget who, but it was like one of like the girl with the yellow pants. The cop calling her banana pants.
That's right, banana pants. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a professional skier,
Oh,
and
cool.
she said for all the years of skiing she's done, like this is like the most people keep asking her about hot dog, and which is funny.
Yeah, it made
And
like a decent amount of money, right? Like 19 million.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, they said Patrick Hauser, the guy who played Harkin, they did bring him in for ski lessons, but he just looks so unnatural for skis that they had to use a double for that. So obviously, when he's doing like all these incredible acrobatics, it's somebody else that's doing that.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
but anyway, the guy doing it, I don't remember his name, but he was telling his parents like, "Hey, I'm going to be in this new ski movie. I'm really excited. You guys should go see it." And but he had no idea like this was going to be like a sex comedy.
Oh my
So
God.
like his parents go there, and they think like the movie he's in is like basically a porno. So
That's kind of funny.
so they it's like, you just go there and you see a movie and you're just like, oh my God, like what did I star in?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine when you're expecting to be in a 3 hour socially relevant drama, and then it's an hour and a half sex comedy.
They said it was supposed to be a 3-hour ski movie.
Yeah, where's the other hour and a half? Where's all I gotta know. I want to see that cut. It probably does not exist. It probably is nowhere.
No, it's not anywhere. I mean, they pretty
Yeah.
much said like they had to start over from whatever footage they had.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
this is a movie that was saved in the editing room, but
Yes.
and thank God it was, or we wouldn't have had it.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to talk about it.
But so we're split. I liked it. I give it a light recommend. Nathan does not give it a recommend, but I believe that is all we both have to say. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right, Ryan. Next week we're back at it again with Bond Zilla week. Even though the Zilla he's waiting in the shadows to pop up later, but on Tuesday we're going to be talking about another James Bond classic with The Living Daylights, which is streaming now on Amazon Prime. Yeah, what are we going to be talking about on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we are going back to our old friend Inoshiro Honda. And
Yes.
we're going to be talking about the movie Dogora. So, yeah, Nathan, that is over on the Criterion channel.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that.
Definitely. But if you have any thoughts, opinions about this podcast, you want to tell us how much you love hot dogs, email us over at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on X at DIDFpod. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/driving-double-feature-podcast. But until next time.
Until next time.